This is a crazy drama between two artists that resulted in both artists making 40+ page documents exposing each other. So let's break this down because it gets really messy. And again, disclaimer before I start this video, please don't send hate to any party, all right? In any scenario, there's always two sides and the truth. And in a lot of times, it's not one villain, one hero. A lot of times, everybody involved can be morally gray. So this kicked off with this first tweet from Momoka. Momoka said, okay, enough is enough. You are a bully at Kamaniki. You can block me all you want for calling you out on not paying your artist. You can spread vicious lies and rumors about people behind their backs and be a mean girl and be excited to be a toxic gossiper. It really excites you. So these are screenshots from tweets of a private account by the handle Angie_Mau. And from my understanding, this is the alt account of Kamaniki. The account reads, I checked a certain artist who left Twitter's Patreon because I knew they were collecting money for months without providing content. So there's a screenshot of the page being under review. And the follow-up thread reads, I am so petty. This weekend, I just gossip about them to my friends, and it honestly solidifies so many of my points and how this person is just paranoid and crazy. I feel relieved, like I keep thinking something's wrong with me, like I did something wrong, but no, man. Honestly, so annoyed, but it's really reassuring when my friends remind me about how much work I put into my projects and how they were all witnessing it all. It really makes me feel proud about myself, while this person made me feel like shit and I didn't work hard enough. I'm honestly so worried about all the people they're using. Literally, people want to support them, but they treat everyone like trash by taking their money for granted and giving nothing in return because sob, my life is so miserable. The amount of times they would gaslight me into thinking I'm a bad person, like that's some manipulative shit. I'm still worried if people got their pre-orders or not. Like, what the F has this person done to me? I'm so paranoid, I check up on them to see if they update anything. Honestly, I will call their shit out if they really don't fulfill their orders by October because that's scamming. If they already did that with Patreon, then they got no problems with taking money from pre-orders with no fulfillment done. Momoka follows up with, do you want to know the truth about why I left Xenotwit? This is referring to Xenoblade Chronicles. It's because Gigi effing bullied me and got mad when I told her not paying contributors for her projects was wrong. Just look at how many copies the tarot card project sold and look at how she degrades other projects. So here are the screenshots. Kamaniki posted in their Discord, regular boxes EN 278 out of 300, 1,170 boxes sold, 1,224 boxes total, 1,300 ordered. May increase so I can sell some at cons. Still waiting on 3 JP to respond and Melon books to end. So leftovers, we have 17 special editions, 58 special editions. So we'll have 225 excess. And Kiro says, also Andoryu drawing characters with eyes closed. Kama Niki says they're not even done. They're designed for their other project they're hosting LMAO. Kiro says the draft is good. Kama says it's really good. Kama Niki says, I'm at all like I want to brag that the artists are actually not procrastinating, at least 25% of them, LOL. I hope this is not a scenario where they're potentially making fun of somebody. Without full context, not sure. Also, these Discord messages were sent February 7th, 2023. So these were a year and a half ago. So Kamaniki is stating, yeah, I've never seen people enthusiastic in these projects, referring to the tarot card project while handing things in early LMFAO. Tundria says it's a first laughing emoji. Here, they're kind of talking about another Xenoblade Zine that is being made. Kamaniki says Nisnow is actually the mod for that one. They extended it by a month and people are handing things at first checkup last month out of 4. So yeah, examples of Kamaniki maybe not talking the most favorably about other projects happening. Momo says, I literally told her to pay the contributing artist for the tarot card project, which grossed over 100k USD. She pocketed every single dollar, and when she finally paid artists after I called her out on it, big red letters on the new project that nobody would receive financial compensation for their contributions. I stopped engaging with everyone. I unfollowed you. I asked you to leave me alone. You enjoy making others suffer and talking shit about people. Leave me alone. Okay, so for extra context, Luca was like, why are they talking shit about Ando Rio? Because again, without context, I can't really tell whether it's a joke or not, right? But Ando Rio says, I took it as a compliment. I do draw very fast. Ooh. Hopefully it was in a good light, right? We don't really know without full context about everything. Because again, when things are written out in text, tone, like you can't really tell tone. So when somebody says, oh, they're drawing with their eyes closed, it could imply, oh, they're drawing with their eyes closed so the art looks ugly, or it could imply they're drawing it really, really quickly. So it could go either way. I'm going to give benefit of the doubt here. Hopefully they're just, complimenting Ando. That's the way they took it anyways. So on this original tweet that was made by Momo, there was a lot of thoughts, right? We have Orpheus replying, I really hope you can back up those claims because now you're messing with her business publicly. You know what they say about stones and glass houses, right? So this was the extra context that Momo added. Okay, quote, it's for future projects, end quote, is greater than, quote, PayPal eats up too much in fees, end quote. Quote, Japanese artists don't want payment, so not fair to pay anyone else. I will post full chat log with full context later, putting everything together now. Also, I didn't want money. And Kamaniki wrote an entire say essentially, and this was posted, or this DM communication happened January 25th, 2024. Kamaniki wrote, first, I want to thank you for putting the time to talk about this with me. I sat down rewriting my thoughts. I deleted a lot of essays I wrote during the process of this because some of it didn't fit and didn't seem appropriate. When I started the project, I didn't expect it to turn into such a large-scale project. I've only ever never done art books with guest artists, so I figured the process was going to be similar. So I admit for being a complete amateur on this whole thing. I was honestly so thankful he decided to help me with the Japan side of things during the project, so thank you for that. While the project did make a small profit, I intended to use that profit towards hosting more group projects to keep the fandom thriving with creativity. While paying all the artists would be ideal, logistically, PayPal would eat up a huge chunk of the funds through fees when the project's artists from multiple countries. On top of that, multiple Japanese artists don't have a way to get paid, nor do they want to get paid for fan projects. I was actually contacted by a few Japanese artists for their concerns. Green322 reached out to me to change some words for our promotional use content because they were worried our project was seemingly too official. Another person was Nayuda, who expressed our project was coming off as an official project as well, and even said they would only join core compendium. I hope I read that right. I'm not good at pronouncing words. If it was kept fan content as much as they can. I have no objection with paying people for the work they did, but I also want to treat everyone fairly. It wouldn't be fair if I only paid some people, but some don't get any at all. I initially just went into this project going with a pay for production mindset. I even allow artists who do prints exclusively to resell their artwork they did for the project too. I have no problems with that at all. And to be honest, when I put together core compendium, they meant Xenocompendium. So they meant to say, when I put together Xenocompendium's document, I did it right after coming home from Japan, and I got a huge fever. But I wanted to be able to push out a new project before the end of the month. I initially only put these projects together because the amount of artists that had been wanting to join projects like these, but don't have time to put them together, and it just motivates me to want to host something to give them a good time. The guideline was there to ensure all bases were covered. While I'll be taking on extra work like the previous project, it's up to the artist on how many pieces they want to do. I will definitely update in a little bit so people will know what they will be signing up for more clearly. So Momo says, I appreciate you taking the time to respond and really think it over, but I think there's a disconnect between what we're trying to communicate with each other. Part of the responsibility of an event organizer is to ensure that everybody's treated fairly. I'm not sure about you, but if I were a newbie or intermediate artist unfamiliar with merch making and heard how much the tarot card project sold in profit without any transparency, I would be pretty upset. There was some more messages that were cut off, and then we have this follow-up full screenshot. Momo replied, I thought about the numbers and I honestly kind of feel like it's not right with the way things have settled. From my understanding, I really feel like the community was not treated and compensated fairly for the work that was put into it. And I was not going to say anything because it happened so long ago and it was a really amazing project. But I also can't help but think it's really not right to understand merch making and everything that goes into it and know that artists did not get compensated, at least in some way financially. My worry is with the next group project, the same thing is going to happen. I don't like that, and I don't like that for other artists who may not have the same understanding of how well the tarot card project did. I do not care about being compensated, by the way, it's not for me. But you and I are working on a high level in the fandom, and it's okay, obviously, if you don't feel the same way. I don't want to push that on you. I believe and stand by what I said when I said everybody draws their own line in the stand. Still, I can't just not say anything when a second project like the tarot card project is coming out now. Also, like, what I'm saying now is my opinion only, and I never want to push that on you or anyone else. How I feel about the Xeno fandom is this. I was at a very rough point in my life and about to stop doing art completely when a lot of people in the fandom started supporting me. Those people, in my opinion, will always deserve reverence and accolades, and I am here because of them and their support and contributions. Not just Inel or Sava or Z, but artists too. I want other artists and people participating to not know their success but reap the rewards of their hard work. Orpheus responds, if anybody had problems with her due to this, I'm sure they voiced their concerns to her. But if they didn't and they were okay with her investing in future projects that pulled all of them together, then it's not a problem. But do give more context if you can. Momo said nobody knew how much the project sold. She specifically tried to keep it secret and under wraps and gave me some BS excuse about it. I will post the entire chat logs tomorrow. Yes, I was impulsive sharing this too soon, but I would not post if there wasn't enough proof. Momo replied, also, I think it's crazy that somebody can come forward with proof of 4 months worth of harassment and be questioned over whether the allegations are real. I have nothing to lose and nothing to gain by sharing any of this. It grossed 100K and she refused to pay out without pressure. So basically there's more arguments about whether Momo should have provided more proof, etc. But more proof was provided down the line, so it's more back and forth. But again, other people like Donut are agreeing that these are some pretty big claims that don't really have anything as of now to back it up, as of when the tweet was crafted. Proto replied, I mean, she's the one who put your Patreon under review, or are you just trying to find something to change the topic so nobody looks into why you're under review? Which is also something that definitely was kind of glossed over. Again, two things can be true at once. It could be true that maybe Momo's Patreon could be a little sus, could be, allegedly, I don't know, right? We're gonna get into all of this. And it could also be true that Juju did not pay people for the tarot card project. I'm just trying to see if it's still up. So this was what I could grab from the tarot card, by the way, to give you guys more context as to what is being discussed. So this is on kabaniki.moe. So it's called Xeno Tarot Project. It's an unofficial art collaboration. So this happened a while ago, so it's all closed now. The website's really pretty. So there's two different options. You can either get the regular tarot box, which is a 2-piece tarot card box with gold foil detailing. Oh, okay, so you get 78 cards and a 36-page info book. book. And the special edition also comes with 18 holographic and gold foil postcards, a gold foil drawstring bag, and a Zohar core crystal medal, and examples of the artwork. And this is so pretty, by the way. So I think the concept of this, making a fan-made tarot card deck to try to revive the community and inject more art into a fandom that you truly love, is a cool concept. I'm curious as to how much this sold for. If we go onto the Japanese website Melon Books, it lists the regular one, the tarot card deck with the info book and, you know, without all the fancy, for 49.50 yen. And that clocks in at about 34 USD. It's about 34 USD. Did they sell like 1,200 copies of this? And then Momo put out a follow-up tweet 10 minutes after the first tweet, tweeting, "What you should actually take away from this is you need to directly support artists you love. And artists, don't participate in projects that won't pay you or donate the proceeds to charity. Stop putting blind faith in influencers and professional Twitter users." I'm just laughing about the professional Twitter users comment, you know, being a shade to people being chronically online. And then about 20 minutes later, they put out another tweet stating, "I really don't care anymore. I will share more. Literally everything she doesn't have time to delete or try to scrub later." And to every other content creator who knows and knew and said nothing, your silence is compliance. It speaks volumes. And I do agree with AJR with all of this. Then stop dragging it to a pointless drama show like those professional Twitter users and show the evidence. I do think, I mean, so far, you know, those are some pretty hefty claims. And the main criticism from people is they want to see evidence. And if you do make a hefty claim like that, you do need to provide evidence to back it up. So this is a follow-up that was added by Momo about 7 hours later. So this is still all on August 10th. So Momo adds, "Clarification for those who have been blocked. This is what you get as a contributor of Xeno Compendium. One book, and then you can choose to purchase extra at 50% cost, but you must sell under the price that she sells them for on her store. Where's the financial compensation?" So this is the screenshot. Compensation. "Our participants are eligible for a special edition. If you do not want the special edition and just the book, you will need to specify that in the form." So I'm assuming this is referring to the special edition tarot card set that I showed you that came with the little charm in the bag. And the book maybe is just the info book. Anybody who has contributed additional art outside of their main artwork will need to list out the amount and what they contributed in the form. Then it can help solidify and help us determine the amount of additional books you will be eligible for. We have the numbers and all of the art, but it's better to just double check with the artist as well so we don't miss anything. Everyone will have a 50% discount code to use in the pre-order store. Try to keep the code amongst yourselves, and please specify in the comment section that you are one of the artists with your username purchasing it so we can put those orders on a separate batch. So I'm guessing the 50% thing, in terms of you must sell under the price that she sells them for on her store. Yeah, that does make sense. Ignoring all of the not paying the artist part, right? Handing out your items at 50% cost that is bought by the merchant so that the merchant can sell it and make a profit. That's how wholesaling works. You buy an item cheaper and you sell it for your own price at your store. But typically with wholesaling, there is a restriction in which you can't sell it a lower price than the main person, right? So then we have Sean Sori stating, "This claim isn't true. Here's some clarification." So clarification for distribution information. You may do the following with these copies. Resell it in your online store and cons events at your own pricing for profit. You will be paying the following costs: shipping and customs production costs for the total amount of books you're interested in selling. Online store pre-order pricing, regular edition 45 USD, special edition 95. Oh, okay. So it was 45 USD for the regular, 95 for the special. Okay, so it was cheaper in Japan actually with the conversion rate of the yen. If you'd like to change the pricing to fit your criteria, please feel free to do so. We only request to not price it more than the original pricing as it's already carefully selected to be fair for consumers and customers. Okay, so this adds additional context then. So you, I guess, are allowed to price it lower if you wanted to. Kamaniki then made their first tweet August 10th, 6:51 a.m. Oh, so my bad. Their tweet was actually about 10 minutes before the tweet that I just showed you from Momo. But I digress. Kama tweeted, "I'm going to step in for this. If this is regarding the Xeno Compendium, we give free copies to artists who drew art for the projects they're in. And we offered additional books for people who contributed more. 50% is for people who wanted more than their free copy. It's literally in the contributors document that is still public in Discord unedited. I don't know who the artist is, but what they're spreading is not truthful. This was the case with the Xeno Tarot project, by the way. So I don't know who's spreading this misinformation that we weren't providing copies for their work." Then Gigi put out a follow-up response 2 minutes later. "I know there was a bomb drop and that screenshots were dumped out from my private account showing me being displeased by somebody who hasn't fulfilled paid pre-orders since January and never gave their Patreon rewards for months." This is referring to Momo. So Gigi was ranting on their private, which was the first screenshot that we saw from Momo. Gigi is accusing Momo of not fulfilling paid pre-orders since January. This tweet came out August 10th, so it's been 8 months, and never gave their Patreon reward for months. And now making things up like we grossed 100K pay as if it were profit. They aren't including the expenses incurred during the project and the amount of work on the back end. This is actually insane. I have a convention to attend today, so I can't respond to everything. But she is throwing all of her supposed fandom close friends under the bus to make her seem like the better person, as an argument like she was targeted. I will drop more later with receipts if you guys want. The only thing I asked is to give me some time to write what I want to write. I'll drop the full story on my end. This person is very good at twisting their words, and the people backing her are people who have also given me a bad time in the past. They aren't providing their receipts. Thank you, Ming, for bringing this up, especially when they ran multiple projects and understands the back end stuff where it isn't 100% profit. And Brother Ming added, I need everybody to realize 100K in revenue is not 100K in profits. If you guys don't understand, revenue is the amount of money that you have earned from sales, not subtracting any expenses incurred. Profit is the amount of money you earned minus everything it cost you to earn that money. If you're doing an insane job, then maybe 50% is profit, but in my experience, 25% is average before the taxes. And Brother Ming clarified that this is specifically for merch and big projects. Art print margins are obviously much better, and traveling with only prints is a lot less expensive as well. But for most non-crack god tier artists, it's also much harder to survive off of only art prints. I would be a little hard pressed to imagine that only 25% of the 100,000 was profit, as in they only profited $25,000 out of it. If we're using Brother Ming's example, right, of 25% being profit as example, and if the revenue was 100K, that means if we're using a 25% number, that means that $25,000 was profit. Again, we don't know how much is profit, right? And if we do the math and we divide it, there are 78 cards, that's $320 per artist that could be divided for. Again, this is not accounting for any of the time that Gigi had also spent on this. Gigi should also be paid for the time and effort they put into this, right? I do think this is a scenario, and I'm an outsider looking in on these numbers, but I have experience with running a business and stuff like that, to where I do think some money, actual money, could have been distributed to the artists. But again, let's look at more information that's provided. But here we have another comment from Gormati Blade stating, you are right about the unfulfilled orders on Etsy. Literally had $70 in items I bought just before my birthday in January, and then in July, I still hadn't received them, so I canceled. The response I got wasn't too nice either. So on August 10th at night, Kamaniki put out their response. So it reads, my statement regarding Momoka. Hi everyone, the long-awaited document. Even though it hasn't been a day, but hey, I'm at a convention working a booth. They were at Animathon, if I remember the name correctly. I'm low on sleep, got multiple deadlines, and vented out on my private account without even naming anybody or someone who still hasn't sent out their pre-orders from their online store since January, even though they promised they would get it done as soon as possible while keeping their customers in the dark about it only up until 2 weeks ago, but still no shipping updates. I'm not making excuses here, but I've been busy since February until now. June was stressful as I was preparing for multiple events, and for multiple events coming up on my schedule to have missed compensation emails. I have receipts for my flights, hotels, photos to back my schedule, but those who have been a longtime follower knows I'm always keeping my schedule going and busy. Those who don't know think I'm making things up to make myself seem important. I literally travel for work. I'm honestly blessed and happy to be able to have an opportunity like this, but if it weren't for my fans being so supportive. For a lot of people, I never really disclose this, but I run 2 businesses, but I'm not going to involve those in a personal problem between Momo and I. I also don't normally block people. As of the past 2 years, I've only blocked people I find not worth having convos with anymore after an attempt at a conversation. I do not want to talk to walls. My DMs have always been open, but all I've been experiencing is backstabbing gossip involving me. But anyways, let's get on. So again, we've already looked through basically all of Momo's screenshots. So here they wrote, first I want to clarify this thing involving compensation. The project documents are still public and edit timestamps are included for those who are skeptical. Anyone had adjusted it to fit a narrative. So they linked it as well. And the compensation was listed. For 1 illustration, you get a physical copy. For 2 illustrations, you get a physical copy and bonus merch. And for the Xeno Compendium, more information was also looked for. Oh, I see. So the Xeno Compendium is their new project, the set of books. For some reason, this whole time, my brain has been jumbled and I thought the Xeno Compendium referred to the tarot deck. My bad. Oh my god. So the Xeno Compendium was the new project that Momo was referring to, being like, oh, they're starting a new project, this, that, and the third. So compensation for 1 illustration or 3 chibis or 2 full bodies is 1 physical copy of the book by itself or the set. And it's listed that you're more than welcome to draw more than the required illustration total, but there will be no further incentive other than what is already offered. And you'll get a 50% discount for additional books and sets during the pre-order period. Kama writes, anybody who contributed to the Xeno Tarot Card Project and the Xeno Compendium are promised a free copy of the special edition of the final product. The cost of shipping supplies, the shipping cost, tax, labor, and time to pack the items and ship it is all covered by the project itself and my own labor and time. These products don't just pack themselves, they require somebody to do it, and I was the one who did it with my friends. To the person spreading this misinformation, I advise you to just work on your reading comprehension. I have no ill feelings towards this person. I am concerned that even though I expressed this multiple times, everybody gets a free copy of the final product. Unfortunately, this is how they comprehend it. 50% off discount code. So this has been a hot topic. People have been misinterpreting this as the project is not offering free copies. This whole thing is a whole big nuance because people were saying, oh, the people who made it didn't even get a free book. A free book was given, the 50% off was additional. So Canva then goes into, let's talk about how much it costs to put together one tarot card deck that gets shipped out. There's the cost of goods, the product itself is not free. Each special set included a tarot deck, a coin, a customizable pouch, and additional postcards. Shipping supplies that, you have to purchase, the shipping service cost. And labor speaking with representatives located in Asia. Yeah, so I'm guessing probably Alibaba, which was the most popular site. Nothing wrong with Alibaba. Look, I've worked with them to manufacture stuff. I still will work with them in the future because it's great. I'm Chinese. My job is to communicate with them to make sure everything is working. Yep. A lot of times there's a lot of back and forth. They'll give you a sample and it's all fucked up and you're like, dude, I didn't ask for this. Like I asked for gold foil. Why is it silver? Can you remake it? Why did you just stretch my artwork? You would think it's so simple as like, hey, you give them the artwork and it's done. Nope. Because communication is really important. And also there's different things too with like, you can make it digitally on a tablet and once it gets printed, it looks different physically in hand. And you might need to actually adjust the colors and other things to account for differences in print that you may not realize when you just have it on a screen tablet. The time spent to quality check, put together shipping boxes. And what about people helping me pack? This is me throwing in my 2 cents. What about all the people that I had help me with packing and shipping boxes? Do they not get any payment at all? I do think they should, and so should the artist, but I digress. I feel like everybody involved should get paid. So again, the boxes, all the packaging, more boxes that came in. This is insane. That is a lot of shipment. Oh boy. Unless you have worked e-commerce or retail in any online business, packing 1,000 orders by any means is not easy, especially under a time restraint. There was only 2 weeks before I was off a regular business trip. Oh, 2 weeks to pack 1,000 orders is crazy. Oh boy, that's nuts. Well, for those who don't know, I also have a Patreon that involves sending out packages every month as well that involve posters and other goods that were sent out at the same time while I was absent. The reason I offered 50% is because you have to include the cost of goods, shipping, physical labor. Yeah. There's also something I never really brought up publicly is the tarot card project packing process because I never really spoke about it. Shipping rates were not accurate during the Zeno tarot card project for customers. Shopify provided pricing that was not accurate. Oh, we paid out of pocket for the additional cost for each package. Each ranged from additional $10 to $20 on top of what customers had paid during pre-order in June, but we never spoke up about it because it was our job to get the product to the customer. I do agree it's a very mature and correct choice to not speak about your mistake, right? It happens. If you're a business owner, sometimes you make a new product. This sounds like the first time they've ever made a tarot card deck, and they didn't realize that shipping may have been a lot more than what they originally thought it was. And I definitely do agree that each shipping package range an additional $10 to $20, the customer would not be happy. So they stated in the next couple of days, they're going to compile an Excel sheet for those who participated to know more about how expenses went through. I think that'll be really helpful. Oh, okay. It's not public because we don't need to share that information with those who are not involved. It'll be shared privately, but they'll add information they're fine with sharing. So in February, Momo spoke up to me about not giving money to artists who participated. The project was fulfilled in September. Everyone's packages were sent out, and the convo made Kama realize that my methods and approach on projects like these are very different from other projects. I want to make changes. So after initially offering a free copy, I added on top money compensation for the work involved with the artist after my conversation with Momo. Wow, so this is a huge Discord message. Let me try to give you a TLDR because this is very long. So the first chunk was just talking about how great the tarot card did and how so many new fans loved it. So they added that they're going to provide a bonus cash compensation and that they're going to use the extra profits to put towards the new project Zeno Compendium, and that the earnings have made future projects more self-sustainable. This was my first big collaboration project, so I understand some people had concerns on how it was run. I thought having a 3-year history of making products and mailing them out on time on my Patreon every month was enough to convince people I'm capable of fulfilling this project to the very end. I overlooked the fact that I never really disclosed what would happen to the profits at the end of the project, as it is second nature to me just use it towards more fan products to give back to the community. So I apologize for not clarifying that. And then going forward, they're going to add all expenses in an Excel sheet for transparency. And they provided a form link to provide cash compensation. But so far from reading this, it doesn't seem like Kama came at this with like bad intention, you know what I mean? It didn't seem like Kama was like, let me scam a bunch of artists and make a bunch of money off of them. That's not the vibe that I'm getting. It sounds like Kama is really passionate about Xenoblade, wanted to make some fan projects, and was really, really excited, got the project kicked off the ground, and then, wanted to be a fan-made thing, thought it was very good intention, and didn't realize maybe down the line that some payments should have gone out. But it doesn't seem like it was malicious. Kama then addressed the screenshot Momo provided stating that this is what you get as a contributor. One book. I misinterpreted. The compendium is a book, not the tarot card. So Kama says this is not true. Our application document stated the artist gets 100% rights to their arts. They can resell, make prints, and do whatever they want. That was my interpretation, that the artist still kept their rights. A screenshot people can go and sell it on their own stores and can set their own prices. Kama just asked they didn't raise the price too much. So artist compensation from Zeno Tarot Card Project. As of now, I'm contacting artists who contacted me regarding not being compensated for filling out a form. Remember that form we linked? They said that they sent out compensation emails on June 4th. And today they sent emails to the artists who have not responded and will apologize due to their lack of follow-up due to their schedule being busy. So remember we read that Momo stated nobody knew how much the project sold. She tried keeping it under wraps. And there's proof of Kima stating, oh, we've hit 750 pre-orders, giving more context. Guys, we're past 1K, let's go. And then there was the message about 4 months of harassment. Here's a private message between Momo and I where she said I was apparently bullying and harassing her. I will not be deleting everything or anything at all. I've included Discord links of each image for high-res versions. So Momo initiated a conversation about the tarot card project. And then, Momo's kind of being hesitant. Kama's like, are you asking me some stuff because you're worried about how the profit and sales were handled? And Momo says, I thought about the numbers and I feel like it's not right with how it's settled. We did read that screenshot already from Momo. And Momo was being respectful, being like, you've been doing cons for 10 years and I respect the time and effort, but you should understand that artists should be compensated for a group project that performs at a high level. And then Kama asked for some time to respond. Oh, wow. Okay, wait. So this is interesting. The order that Momo had showed it was not the order that the DMs actually happened in. Momo's DM happened on the 24th, and then that first one that we read from Kama actually happened on the 25th. Oh, so that's why I was really confused when I was reading it. Okay. So this screenshot we actually already read, but it did get cropped off. So Momo added, I'm not trying to be accusatory or too aggressive, but I really think if it's a small project that grew out of hand, yet made a small profit, financial transparency with the participants should not be an issue, and I know some would appreciate the clarity. I'm also aware of many people in the fandom who purchased them under the impression that the artists are being paid. This is a serious issue that needs to be addressed in my opinion and still needs to be addressed with a compendium. And they're basically asking Kama to be forthcoming. So Kama says, I do feel like this is accusatory and a bit aggressive, but I can see where you're coming from. And that from your standpoint, it does seem like I'm coming from a very shady and just pocketing the profits. Kama says that they haven't spent any of the tarot card profits outside of the September expenses, and the money has been sitting in their bank account for future projects. So they basically said that there were some damaged boxes, this, that, and the third, and that history won't be repeating themselves because they got experience from the tarot card project and they will be organizing future projects more clearly and providing more details. But to cut to the chase, Kama added, do you want me to compensate you and everyone then? This conversation just seems like you want compensation and I'm fine with that, but I do have to work out the numbers for that when I have time. Momo says, I clearly said before, I don't need compensation. I kind of feel a bit disrespected by you actually, because I feel like if things really were the way you are saying, then there would be no need to be so amorphous with responses. I don't really understand how Momo feels disrespected here. I mean, it does kind of also sound like Kama is putting the issue of paying people on kind of a back burner where maybe it shouldn't have been. I do think it's a scenario where it's a little bit gray on both sides, but I don't think that Kama has ill intent with the tarot card project, which is what I feel like Momo is thinking. So Momo is basically expressing their frustrations here, stating, we know it's not an insignificant amount of money either, and I honestly feel like you're insulting my intelligence by insinuating this is a small project when over 1,000 units were sold. Kama apologizes if they offended Momo in any way. I feel like we're going in circles with our convo, and I wanted to know what the best solution would be for this conversation. I'm seriously more than happy to sit down and calculate the maths and pay everyone a set amount. My main plan was to utilize this fund exclusively for future group projects, like I mentioned earlier. I do think, though, that to alleviate this issue, Kama has good intentions, right? Being like, I want to use this for future projects. I do think then, like, transparency about the numbers would have been good. Hey, so here's the designs. After I calculated all the fees, whatever, our net profit is $20,000. This $20,000 will then go towards the production of the next project. And Momo says, I really hope you plan on doing that before following through in the compendium. And Momo stated that whatever their share is supposed to be, please add it back into the pool for everybody else. I really love your work and what you make, but if you really want to invest in future projects, the best way you can do that is by setting a reputation for artists getting paid to participate. And they hope everybody who participated knows that they're going to be compensated. And Kama states that initially started the tarot card project just for fun, and from past experience, they didn't feel financial transparency was necessary, but now they understand that they're willing to improve and make future projects better. So they sound really nice here, right? Momo saying it's still really pretty and beautiful. Your hard work shows off, and I think you're an amazing artist. Kama says, I honestly feel really bad for insulting you in any way. I am so sorry. So they're apologizing. So here, Kama, I'm thinking about this honestly. It's left a strain in our relationship because of my bad choice of words and my negligence. Having you talk to me about this really left me for a loss of words because I wanted to be good friends with you and everybody in the community, but I've been keeping myself occupied and busy, and seeing you remove me from your private was really a wake-up call. Again, Kim apologized for ever hurting Momo, and Momo also apologized for getting heated, and they hope they understand that they do mean it, and talking about how they have bad experiences with Artist Alley. And here they're basically talking back and forth, and they're relating and talking about how it can be lonely. So yeah, it really seems like they made up at the bottom. So Kama writes, here's the first section of our discussing regarding the tarot project. This was on January 25th of 2024. Then my time began to get busy as I started to work on the compendium applications as well as traveling during the entire time. And they wanted to do a Xeno themed stamp rally during Anime Expo. So in this screenshot, they initially were trying to plan a stamp rally, and then the stamp rally kind of got canceled because it was hard to plan it due to not knowing the artist list. So then they were trying to plan a special event. So Kama then added, during this time, she made some very accusatory statements in a Discord called CGL. I've only joined the Discord because Momo invited me in, and I believed it was a Discord by artists who have been doing art alleys for years in North America, and it would be a place to share business-related info and conventions. The only thing they warned me about was just to not interact closely with people in that community because they had some problems with some members there. I didn't know the extent of it being that bad. I guess I shouldn't have interacted with anyone at all. They never warned me who the people were to begin with, so I interacted with people I was familiar with. The hot topic this year with longtime artists who have been selling at cons involve proxies. For those who don't know, proxies are people who sell for an artist at a convention instead of the artist themselves. There has been a long discussion about proxy companies forming in the last 3 years and extorting high-profile artists in Asia and making extra money without properly compensating them. This is common knowledge among artists in this field. But the biggest problem is that these proxy companies will sign up for artist alleys at conventions pretending to be the artist in spaces where you, or for a lot of the customers, would be happy to go to the event to meet your favorite artist at an artist alley, not a representative. I believe I made a tweet regarding this a few weeks ago to see my follower base's view on these situations. Let me rephrase this. There are actually rules at certain cons that do not allow proxy services at an artist alley. And these proxy companies breach that contract by doing impersonation. That is the problem. So Momo gave their opinion about the proxies when nobody talked about it for weeks, which stirred up the entire Discord because it came out of the blue. Nobody was talking about proxy topics that week, but Momo decided to blow up about it. So here's tidbits of the convo. So far though, I don't see how this is relevant. Oh, so basically, from my understanding, Momo tweeted that they do think the proxy convo is getting out of control, but it's one individual who's trying to give newbie artists a fair shot at selling merch for the first time. And they want smaller artists to have legitimate avenues for getting into cons and testing the waters. So it sounds like they think proxies can be a good thing for small artists. I mean, I can understand that like it can be helpful, but it can also be disingenuous at the same time if people didn't know that said big artist was a proxy. You see their list, their name on the list for Artist Alley, they're like, oh, you're like, oh my God, I'm so excited to go and like see them just to find out it's not them. I do think that would feel bad. I just think in scenarios like that, transparency is what's important. If you disclose the fact, hey, I'm not going to physically be there, my proxy is going to be there, I think that would alleviate that issue. So, I mean, people in the Discord are just like discussing proxies. I think that is all leading up to context for this scenario here, where basically Kama says there was an artist they were loosely acquainted with, who they used to be friends with, who allegedly had used a proxy, and then they had a free run piece, I never can say that name correctly either, potentially used AI / really copied another Japanese artist's free run piece, and Kama defended the Japanese artist, but then something happened in the CGL board that got leaked where they started using the artist's art as evidence for AI on a 4chan board. And then later they found out Momo had unfollowed them on their private and main accounts, and they posted on their private account about how they felt. They posted, I'm gonna be more careful who I decide to be close with because I'm too tired about walking on eggshells. I'm more happy making friends with people who are not content creators because then I don't have to worry about it being cutthroat or being used. I'm mostly talking about artist ally people though, I'm so tired. Despite me being completely okay with helping Momo with any financial assistance initially, out of frustration I post this just because I felt like I was being used, and I immediately hopped off being a Twitch sub. Okay, it's petty AF, but I realized I got removed from the Discord and I've been subbed to them on Twitch for 8 months. I'm ending it. I really want to support them from the beginning. I offered it and they shoved me. I really can't. This victim mentality is awful. I basically picked up after them at a con after they shoved their responsibilities on me too, and this is how they treat me. They are no saint like they're posting to be. And their private messages on their private Twitter were shared to Momo. Guys, this is a whole side thing, okay? Private Twitters are not private. There's gonna be people that sneak in there and infiltrate. In my opinion, if you say things online, even if it's on a private account, you can't really be mad if people then go and like snoop in there and find stuff. If you didn't want people to find it, then you shouldn't have posted it in general. I mean, I do understand the whole like you desire to tweet into the void, etc. Maybe journaling could be a good solution. I'm not trying to blame Kama necessarily for this happening. This is just kind of a general statement I'm trying to make because this is a scenario I have seen happen time and time again where people make little shady subtweets onto their private account that later get leaked. It happens every single time, okay? So guys, we should just learn a lesson. And if you have something shady to say, maybe journal about it instead of out on blast because it will get leaked. It happens every single time, man. I've seen it happen so much. This is just a general statement, okay? We should all learn from this. It sucks to post something that you thought was private to then have it shared. It will happen because people will snoop. So Momo DM'd Kama on April 22nd, 2024. I understand there's hard feelings and I understand venting is a necessary part of processing something that happened. But the issue I'm having is I've been shown that you're spreading false rumors and lying. To be absolutely clear, I unfollowed you because I saw you gossiping about blank in the CGL Discord server and bringing blank into it. I was also told by another person that you wanted to maintain access to their art after a confrontation, which is why I did not soft block or immediately remove you from my server. However, when I noticed you unfollowed me, I removed you from my server because in my past experience, there's no reason for you to be there unless it's to keep tabs. Perhaps that's unreasonable to some, but considering my past experience, which you know about, I don't think it's an unreasonable reaction. Momo probably referring to their bad experiences with other artists at Anime Expo. You have been supportive, but I wonder if you realize that you've been supported as well. It's not a one-way street that just comes from your direction. Just because you supported me monthly via subscription doesn't give you special treatment to remain while you've made it clear you don't want to follow me anymore. Thank you for your past support, but I would appreciate if you respected my boundaries in this scenario. I feel like I've done my best to respect your boundaries at work. I've asked for advice from others who know both of us, and due to the sticky nature of that and having had my name run through the mud previously, I've always been exceedingly careful to show due respect to you. That's why it's really disappointing to see you lying and gossiping about me, and it proves to me that I made the right decision in taking action to break away from you when I saw you try to bring Redacted into your unnecessary gossip drama. Did you even ask Redacted if she was okay with you using her art and reposting it? At this point, it doesn't matter, but I really hope you think about how your actions can affect others a little more before jumping into the toxic gossip pool with those people I specifically warned you about being vipers. Oh, so I'm guessing this is what Momo says, where like, hey, here's this Discord, be careful about the people in here. And then Kama didn't know, so Kama was just like yapping in there, I guess. This to me just seems really petty. Like, this is just really petty drama. It really just seems like a miscommunication got really carried away. Now this has digressed from the initial issue of Kama not paying artists and potentially Momo not fulfilling their Etsy orders into just petty high school drama about you unfollow me, but I'm gonna unsub to you, and then you don't get special treatment because you're sub to me. It's just a very petty. Wow, so Kama wrote a big doc. Wow, that's there's a lot of stuff written here. This is huge and tiny. My eyes are gonna hurt after reading this because these are so small. So I'm gonna summarize this for you guys because it's very long. Kama basically says, do you wanna know why I unfollowed you? You terrify me. When we first met, I wanted to be friends with you. The whole thing about supporting you on Twitch, it literally was a rant. I had way more things I wanted to say, but I chose that because that's what crossed my mind when you unfollowed me. I went to your page to see if I missed any art you had posted to retweet because I remember you were stressed about Twitter algorithms. They wanted just to retweet to give support, but they saw that they were unfollowed. I really wondered if it was because there was a Twitter bug or something, but you unfollowed me on my private too. So I chose to unfollow as well because it just didn't seem like you wanted to have anything to do with me. I do have an issue seeing the amount of negativity you put on your account, but it was not my place to say anything because it's your account and your feelings. But it does hurt to see somebody who I thought had the same interests has lost interest and started bashing the series as a whole. I don't know what I could do as a friend, so I just chose to not even say anything and just retweeted your art. And they were talking about how they defended and supported them at Anime Expo. They wrote, you misled me countless times when you said things like I love you and offering me homemade cookies. I don't know if you're aware, but in Asian culture, it's rare to hear somebody say that out loud. Silence was our way of apologizing and showing love to each other. I took it as literal. I thought I felt a connection with you, and it honestly made me happy. And Kama says that they felt used. They wanted to help others. They put others before their own health because they thought it was the right thing to do. I carefully thought about it, but then offered time in my life to help you with your merch sales because I know you're worried about your finances, because that's what friends would do, at least from my understanding. I've been told I'm too naive, but I just wanted to help friends at the end of the day. And they felt like they were pushed away, but they were trying to be understanding, and they were happy that Momo was getting more sales and better finances. And then the conversation about the tarot card happened. When he told me I know who your manufacturer are, that felt like a threat to me. How is it supposed to react to that? Oh, That's a weird statement to make. You kept dropping these bombs at me, subtweeting me like I can't put two and two together. I was confused as to why you were treating me like that. And then they started distancing themselves and they felt scared. For this other person, I already know who you're talking about. I'm not sure what this reference of this other person is. From my understanding, didn't know there was a third party involved unless it was talking about that mutual that they had that used a proxy. And they finally wrap it up with, I put my foot down too. You're one of the first people I've ever had this much misunderstandings with because you had your own personal grudges, your own paranoia that everyone is out to get you, and had your own problems against other people thrown at me. This is too much for me. I just wanted to be friends, not whatever the fuck the situation is. This self-righteous attitude you're treating me with is awful. So Momo is stating that they didn't feel paranoid. It's valid for you to be disgruntled over redacted, but it also feels really bad to hear you speaking about him that way. The truth is, I don't really know him well either. He expressed an interest to me going to Anime Expo, so I reached out to you in a manner in my own mind that was light and not meant to be pressuring in any way. That is just a big messy situation about the whole Anime Expo thing that just needed a lot more communication. And they were discussing another miscommunication at Anime Expo about them not wanting to get dinner, where it wasn't a snub, that they didn't just have enough energy. And yeah, more discussions, more back and forth, and they're adding even more back and forth. Again, this is the devolve way beyond the first issue we were talking about. Like, all of the dirty laundry is getting aired at this point. And finally, Kamaniki acknowledges after a whole bunch of back and forth, they're basically just talking in circles. Like, you could read this yourself. I'm not gonna read it out to you guys because it's literally just back and forth and things are not really getting resolved. It's just one person's being like, this is my side. The other person's like, this is my side. And the other person's like, oh, but this is actually my side. Like, this is how to reinterpret this. Like, it's just messy. And Kama says, I feel like this is where I'm going to end this conversation. As you said, we're not high schoolers and we just need to move on with our life. I wish you the best as well. And Momo responded again with even more back and forth. So Camaro, this is where I chose not to respond. Take this however you want, but in my shoes, anything I said was just not sitting well with Momo. I chose to just never interact with her anymore because if I try to explain myself, I feel like she will still blame me for everything. And again, their discourse was just so back and forth. Seeing her accuse an artist for stealing a composition for a product, talking down on a series that everybody was supporting them for, talking about Xenoblade, holding people's money for multiple months from her January pre-order, not closing her Patreon, and continuing to collect money from people who support her, my list can continue. But I can leave it at that because a lot of the screenshots I shared above should be enough context. I won't even mention who, but I did reach out to people I thought were her close friends that interact with me from time to time on social media. It was not my place to get in between somebody's friendships, but one interaction with me involving dumb tweets I made regarding armpits and feet, those tweets got a friendship severed despite me not even being close to this person. We only interacted maybe 10 times at most with one off chance on Twitter where everyone can see. And I feel completely awful for being the cause of their long friendship falling apart over a stupid tweet I made. Dude, I'm literally, my jaw's on the floor because this is getting like messier and messier. Since she's choosing to drag people who are not involved in any of this in her public post, I believe I'm not left with much choice but to also add two individuals whom I feel are important to discuss in order to shed more light into all of this. How are more people getting involved? These individuals are Asu and Riley. Asu is somebody who has been lying about my situation to Momo without sharing receipts and helping lead this whole incident. Riley, on the other hand, is a friend of Asu, and their involvement will be added later. So when we get to this point on the document, from this point going downwards, there's actually literally no mention of the initial issue, which is Kama not paying artists. These two people then, Asu and Riley, then get dragged into this document for a whole separate issue that is not what this document was initially about. I read through all of it. I will give you the best TLDR that I can. Kama was accused of whitewashing multiple characters. They first were accused of whitewashing Senna, this character with the blue hair, right? They said it was a lighting issue. There's a filter on this photo. This is a photo from a customer. Senna is darker. Then there was another issue of them being accused of whitewashing Standee of Glimmer and A. As you can see here, A looks pretty white. Their reasoning for this is they were traveling a lot. They brought their XP pen tablet along and the screen was not color graded and calibrated. So when they drew it, the colors came out a lot lighter later than they realized. I'm 50-50 on this one. I've had it in the past where I was drawing on a shit monitor, like a 60 hertz monitor. And then later when I got a better monitor, I realized all my colors were weirdly blown out because the monitor just wasn't good enough. For reference, I don't use a screen tablet, by the way. I do have an iPad, but I don't use a screen tablet. I will say though, if you do see here on this screenshot, we do have a photo over here of A and then their drawing of A, and the skin tone is not matching. But again, right, this is the base color without any rendering. So maybe they use the lightest color possible for the base, right, the highlight color, and then fill in all of the melanin later. I guess, right? I don't know their art process. Again, I do also understand that the screen calibration can cause a big issue. So anyways, this is how the standee turned out. It was only for their Patreon, so they didn't think it was a big deal, but a lot of people were really upset about the whitewashing about it. Kama was upset that people were basically like stating they were worried that they were going to get canceled. So in all of the heat, they made a tweet stating, quote, "and this is why I don't draw dark-skinned characters," end quote. They tweeted that they were dealing with so much stuff, other Patreon rewards, like issues on the back ends. There was whitewashing issues. So there was a comment somebody made and a private account responded. So they figured out the private account belonged to this person called Asu, and basically they go on a whole back and forth. So Asu was stating how, "I don't like things that you've said. You said something about VTubers forming an ADHD group and how people use their mental illness in their bio as a way to get pity, and they said they weren't down for that." Kama wrote an entire response. I will slowly scroll through this and you can pause to read this on your own. And they stated they themselves have ADHD, and so a lot of people in the VTubing space have ADHD and the creator space, so they didn't understand a need for a specific ADHD group, and how also they just didn't like how people would weaponize mental illnesses to excuse bad behavior. And they were talking about their comments about, this is why I don't draw dark-skinned characters. They were stating how it's happened to people that they know who have been canceled for using skin tone a shade or two lighter than the actual skin tone, and they've been canceled off the internet, and they were just cautious about that happening to themselves. And they gave an explanation as to why A was very light. Then Asu goes back stating, "I also don't agree. It's okay to use disabilities as an excuse. It's not cool." Talking about a situation of somebody drawing Nessa from Pokemon completely white and that getting, blowing out of proportion, and that artist getting canceled for whitewashing. And they basically go back and forth on this. And then there was apparently an interaction or a bad interaction between Asu and their client or some issue. Again, I do not see how this is relevant. When I first started reading this doc, I keep trying to be on Kama's side because I'm trying to be on the side of artists, you know what I mean, and etc. But the more I read this irrelevant information, it does kind of seem like this stuff is added to discredit Asu's character in any way. I again do not see how this is relevant to the point. But maybe they decided to do a two birds with one stone type beat where they make one doc to clear multiple allegations. That's my guess. But anyways, their friend Riley DM'd them this massive screenshot that you can go and read yourself. I'm gonna put a trigger warning about potentially self-harm or something like that. There was hints about that. Basically, Gigi was pretty aggressive in this message, definitely very upset and defending Asu, with another message being, "She's going to the ER, by the way, hope you're happy, Gigi." That's definitely a lot. And so Kama put a response. I can't read the response. It is added here. Open link. Yeah, because the content is no longer available. So I can't actually read it, and it's too small. So when I zoom in, the text is basically illegible. So I really wish I could read it. I can't get Kama's side. Riley read through everything. This message talking about basically Riley used to follow Kama, then unfollowed them due to uncomfortable ships with somebody being 15 and not being down for that, and going back to defending Asu, and stating that the last few years have been hard on the LGBT circle of the fandom. Kama states that, I guess my approach is too bold because it causes people to be anxious around me. Understand that fully. So again, Kama basically states that while this is happening, they've been really busy, which is what they've been really emphasizing. So talking about why they're busy, which might explain why they aren't responding as much. Riley comes back basically being like, "Hey, you're talking about me on your alt, this, that, and the third. You're very insincere because you do that." And Kama says, "Oh, you're not my priority to respond because I'm busy." So Riley again is asking Kama to respond, and Riley gives context as to why they reached out to Asu in the first place. And then Riley is again defending Asu. So it's again really back and forth here, which both parties going completely back and forth, and basically Riley telling Gigi that she's intimidating, Gigi being like, "You already told me, I already know that, I can't please everyone." And another screenshot of what they said. The content is again not available, so I cannot read this massive message that Kama wrote. They did not get a response from Riley, but did get a response from Asu. Asu put in a lot of private info that Kama does not want to disclose. Riley then was tweeting about, "Oh, she's done this constantly, she did this to my friend." Kama is alleging that Riley is feeding misinformation to Momo. So here you can see that is the full context to these messages. Riley being like, "She did this constantly, she did this to my friend when I called her out in DMs for how weird she was when called out for whitewashing A. She harasses artists on a high ground of scamming where she's a hypocrite." More information. So the real question that I have, and I feel like we all have at this point, is how does this tie back into this original situation? Momo messaged me. The only reason why I'm bringing up Asu and Riley is because Asu decided to share misinformation about me to Momo. And Kema concludes with, I've moved on, I am moving on, I will stay far away from people who spread rumors like this. I still want Momo to move on from our initial convo, but I can't help but feel betrayed by people who are fans of both of us, who have approached me with their interaction with Momo regarding their pre-orders from January and Patreon when she blames me for not being honest with my projects. I've been clear about what I have been offering in all my projects. The only thing I have not shared is the expense Excel sheet, as I literally have not had the time to compile it for tax season still, but I'll be working on that soon. But people just seem to want to find a reason to hate me, which is why I'm having lingering feelings. I just want her to resolve these things she incurred on her own. My final thoughts on reading this doc is that it's an absolute mess. Like, it made a lot of sense at the beginning, right? I was like, oh, okay, it makes sense, it makes sense, it makes sense. And then like Asu and Riley got involved, and I'm literally just like, what is the point? And what is the point? Genuinely, why are these people involved? I hope it's somebody that's just extremely passionate and their passion is coming off a little bit too misguided. I'm trying to give the benefit of the doubt, okay? Because I too am somebody, look, I don't know what like country, right, Kama's from, but I'm Chinese and I'm also Asian. And I have had many issues because I come off as very blunt. I can kind of relate in the scenario where if you come off really strong, then people often will misinterpret what you do or say as like one thing when it maybe is not, right? So I definitely can understand the frustrations of that. I'm not good with words, or wording things maybe would be more palatable to people. Words are hard, man. Like, I think in very linear ways, and so the words that come out of my mouth are also very linear because that's just the way I think. I digress. The structure of this doc, though, I really wanted to be on Kama's side, but man, like the moment they started dragging other people into it, I'm like, how is this relevant? But anyways, going back into the original tweets where Kama is talking about their statements, GameCube added, I'm not really sure what to make of this. Some of the things you said on private seem immature. I agree, although I say immature things too. But Momo seems to have a fundamental misunderstanding of everything and seems to be missing key context because of her emotions. I do agree about that as well. Kira says, statement regarding Momoka, and then over half of it is completely unrelated, putting people on blast for being concerned about potentially whitewashing is kind of crazy. None of this besides correcting a misinformation could be public because that doesn't solve anything. Here are the numbers according to Momo's calculation on stream. Can you confirm or deny the figures? Because by the way, Momo streamed on the 10th to talk more about this. 97K gross, 60K after deducting costs, 24K for you, including income tax, 36K to be divided among 55 contributors, inclusive of Japanese artists. Each artist should get 654 USD. So they're saying around 97K gross in terms of revenue. After deducting costs, like production costs, they calculated, I guess, like close to 40K in you know, production cost, shipping. It's about 60K profit. So 2 days after that went down, Momo dropped their Google Doc with all their information compiled, addressing the issues with the recent fandom projects, as well as showing what happened over the past 4 months with Gigi and an apology to Enel. Thank you for listening in spite of everything. So this is also a 40-page document that we will have to get into. So I'm gonna try to summarize this. To start with, I own the fact that I've acted impulsively because this was a high-stress situation that I've been trying to navigate alone of my accord for the past year, but more pertinent the past 4 months. And they stated they shouldn't have made a bunch of rash tweets. I also want to apologize to Enel because he actually did not have anything to do with the situation that I will go into later, but I apologize to you, the reader, for causing confusion by not compiling things concisely and clearly the first time. So here, Momo says that they have been making art and stuff and selling at cons for over 8 years, for credibility reasons. On this note, I'll briefly touch on a previous bad experience I had in the past with other friends from Artist Alley. So again, like we've mentioned before in previous conversations between the two, Momo had mentioned being burned from people in the Artist Alley. So TLDR, a friend before the Artist Alley decided to not pay them for their recent merch order and kept refusing to pay me for accommodations I booked for a shared table at an upcoming con. And there was shit-talking, gossip, etc. So they first decided to address their own situation. I have been accused of my Patreon being closed down because I don't deliver content. This is wrong in the fact the reason it's under review is because Patreon enacted a policy that all creators are tagged as posting NSFW content on the platform must do an identity verification check. It's something I resisted from the start because I do not trust any online service, much like a platform like Patreon, to keep my government ID safe and confidential. So the deadline to submit info passed on July 31st, and they did try to process it in the end, but it didn't go through. So they're still trying to work on it, and Patreon privated there as a result. Momo added that they can't access any of the money that they received the last month. So the notion that they're just like taking money money without giving services is also false. But although I will say though, this notion is kind of true. People, the customers who are paying in are still losing their money. Like they're still getting their money taken away. You also can't access it. So two things can be true, right? People can be paying into something that they're not receiving, and you can also not be getting the money from it. So like both sides are taking a loss here. So also about their Patreon, Momo added that there's been a malicious lie that I just accept money without uploading any content. Momo states that in September of 2022, their Patreon was leaked and bootlegs of their artwork was showing up on AliExpress. As a result, they then restricted their Patreon to a private Discord channel instead that they still updated. And they add that they often give away free or heavily discounted merch and maintain somebody's sub status without paying to longtime supporters when they find themselves in financial hardship or when they say they're having a hard time. And they're saying that the narrative that they're a scammer is false. So finally, they were accused of being a scammer for not fulfilling their pre-orders from January of this year. It's true the orders have not been fulfilled, and it's also true that communication dropped out for a while. But they've hired a helper to make sure this doesn't happen again, and refunds have been granted. So they apologized for the scenario, and they stated that over their 8 years of merch production, this is the first time that something has taken this long to be delivered, and they're preparing shipping labels within the next 2 weeks to ship things out. I will say, not delivering for 8 months is kind of crazy. I mean, they have 8 years of experience, so I'm hoping this is just a one-time scenario with one merch release that wasn't fulfilled. We all make mistakes. This is a pretty big one, to be honest. I don't know how many people are out money, right? But hopefully this can be resolved. So they're reconciling they're relisting the allegations against Gigi. The Xeno Tarot Card project was managed without proper financial transparency and grossed over 100K in profit, around 50K in take home, while the contributing artists were not offered financial compensation. The Xeno Compendium project lacks transparency with financial situation in regards to customer expectations of all contributors getting a kickback. Momo is accusing Gigi of doing a targeted harassment campaign. Momo states that their goal with this document is just to make sure there's more financial transparency and for artists to actually get fairly paid. So again, Momo added the screenshots we've already seen with Kama showing how much they've sold, and that information was dropped in a mod chat and not publicly available to contributors. So with this information, we can understand that as of July 14th, 2023, the Tarot Card project had pulled in orders for 383 normal copies, 842 special edition, for a total of 1,170 sold copies, 1,224 including contributor copies, because remember, contributors get a free deck. 1,300 copies were ordered. However, Gigi notes herself that this number could be inflated depending on whether or not the demand is there to sell at cons. So they're operating under the assumption that 1,300 were sold. The remaining 176 copies will be assumed to be sold via Melon Books for the lowest price possible. So now Momo is using the Wayback Machine to see how much it cost. Oh, wait, this is way more than I originally thought, because I saw the Japanese yen one, which is much cheaper. It was 65 USD for a standard deck, $98 for a special edition set, and the Japanese yen price that I got was correct, 49.50. Wait, that is a lot. So they show how they calculated the Japanese yen price. So these are the numbers that Momo is crunching here. We can just skip over the number crunching to the final tally. So the final projected total sales that Momo calculated is 106,000 USD. To be thorough, I'll purposely not include the cost of shipping because it's irrelevant and that money would not be pocketed by either Gigi or the contributors regardless of the amount. I'm also not accounting for sales tax as that would also not be pocketed. And that is the cost of the deck itself to the consumer and is an estimate of the total pure profit of the project. I feel like it's disingenuous to market this as a profit. It's not profit. Other merch artists may start thinking this figure is not what Gigi would have taken home, and they would be correct, obviously. So then Momo goes to add that the amount Gigi would have taken home would be that number minus all the production costs, etc. So Momo uses a number of 30% against the above final figure and subtract that by the total revenue to get a net profit of 74,000 USD. And then they added a 7% transaction fee. They run the numbers. Melon Book fees are unknown, so to be generous, they used Etsy's transaction fees of 15% to get a much more favorable number for Gigi and an estimate of the cost. So they calculated $8,181 in fees, and they will subtract processing fees from the above amount to calculate 65,900 USD in take home. It's a conservative estimate of take home. And to be even more fair, Momo deducted a further $15,000 for any cost that I may have overlooked. This could count for packaging, shipping, labels. Even after ignoring all of that, we're still left with a staggering amount of 50,900 USD. So Momo here is talking about Gigi's contributions. They understand how much effort goes into it, and it's undeniable that Gigi has a talent of bringing so many people together under one project. It should not be understated that even though some may see work as an artist as some unskilled people or bums do, work at this high of a level in order to deliver such astounding quality is a specialized skill requiring knowledge accrued over the entire course of her career as a working artist. This is why I've always believed and maintained that she should take a chunk for herself. After all, with all the work she did in bringing the project forth, it was more than a full-time job for months straight, and she was doing all of this in tandem with attending cons, maintaining her online store. And Momo says they admire their work ethic. Remember, these numbers are very generous and forgiving in Gigi's favor, and I welcome any merch artist to dispute that these are not fair calculations. It's most likely more than that, but because I would rather stick to the hard facts that anybody can calculate, I would accept this 28,000 USD figure as surplus profit that has not been accounted for. You know, not counting for like a almost 3,000 monthly income paid to Gigi over 8 months. Momo is stating that that $28,000 should be distributed amongst the 55 artists that participated. Momo listed the excuses Gigi provided, being their first project, wanted to save the surplus to use on other projects, want to pay every artist but PayPal fees are too much. Some Japanese artists didn't want to receive payments. And Momo provides solutions. For the first one, you can limit the amount of copies you print to avoid projects from becoming unmanageable. It's a common practice that Momo even does. The best way to invest in future creative projects is to pay your artists for the most valuable part of your projects. I would really love for somebody to argue against this, because as a community, I know that fans love seeing artists get compensated for contributing to what was once a much more niche space to encourage more creations. If we're being generous about PayPal fees costs, we can just go ham and axe 10% of the remaining 28,000 and use the remaining 26,000 to still compensate artists. This one is very frustrating, since even a normal user of PayPal knows that this argument is very weak. That's true. Even though PayPal fees do suck, if I thought I wasn't going to get money and then people decided that it wasn't fair that I didn't get money and were going to give me money, I wouldn't be mad that PayPal took like, I don't know, $20 in fees, even, right? Highball estimate. If I'm pocketing an extra $600 I didn't expect to get, I wouldn't be mad about the fees. I'd be like, oh yay, thanks for this money, man. Even if 50% of contributors would refuse payment, it should still be offered. The remaining 50% of contributors who do want it should not be punished for their choices made by completely separate individuals. I do agree that Gigi probably wanted everything to be fair, with the idea that, oh, if some people couldn't get paid, then I shouldn't pay anyone. But I think the line stops there. Like, wanting to keep things fair is completely valid, but then not paying everyone because some people can't get paid is not true. Also, there's workarounds, right? I mean, would it be possible to ask the Japanese artists, hey, do you have a charity that you would like me to contribute your funds to instead? If they don't have PayPal in Japan, do they? Now that I think about it, when I went to Japan, I never Venmo'd my Japanese friend. But still, I'm sure there's other workarounds to getting something over. At least pick a charity, bro, and you can donate that money to the charity of their choice. I don't know, maybe you can gift them all Robux or something. So this is the full and comprehensive look into the financial situation of the Xeno Tarot Card project, and the excuses that Gigi provided to me when I expressed concerns about where the extra money had gone to. Momo talked about how they noticed that on their private, Gigi talked about starting a new project, which is the Xeno Compendium, that is on sale now. I remember looking at the guidelines and being immediately concerned by a large, bright red line of text announcing, "You will not be compensated financially for this project," end quote. This really rubbed me the wrong way, because I had already done the maths for how much the tarot card project had profited and thought that maybe she wanted to make another profit. I understand that some people may not agree with this thought process and call it too pessimistic. That's what I thought about it long and hard, and even consulted multiple people to ask their opinion on the project and how it was dealt with. So everybody that Momo asked said that the profit withholding was scummy. So in this paragraph, basically, Momo says that they talked to Gigi and expressed their concerns about the finances, and then the finances were resolved and that Gigi paid the artist. Maud stated that they fixed their mistakes, but Momo states that it was only after I confronted her that the contributors ended up getting paid. So please do not try and erase the fact that I put my neck out on the line for the sake of other creators while simultaneously trying to discredit my message. In fact, I find this sentiment particularly distressing because I did not even ask for any money. On the other hand too, though, going back to the compendium thing, right? This is what I don't understand. And maybe my brain is too peanut because it's been a hot minute since I made merch, right? But if you were to say that this money that you made was then to go towards future projects, where exactly is it going? That's what I'm wondering. Let's say Gigi doesn't take any money. Let's say Gigi doesn't pay anybody. And we're using a conservative estimate that $50,000 that was made in profits from the tarot cards were then to be put forth towards the next project, which is the compendium, the art book. Where is that 50K going? Exactly. I'm guessing what Gigi is going to use it for is the payment for the production, which you need to pay upfront with these sellers on Alibaba, because they won't work unless you give them money, which is extremely fair and should always be like that, right? They won't make your product unless you pay them. Pay for the production of the art books. But again, producing like 1,000 art books isn't going to cost you 50K. Okay, maybe I'm like a little conspiracy tinfoil hat, right? My brain is not mathing this correctly. MS Paint. Because if we have the tarot cards, trying to draw this in the best way possible. The tarot cards made you 50K, and then the 50K now goes to this art book. Ooh, this is pretty good for using a mouse, never mind. It goes for a book, but the book is not paying the artist either. And then the book is gonna have its production costs or whatever. Let's use the same estimate. It was estimated that it was gonna be 40K production costs, right? So then we still have another 10K left. And then that's not even counting any of the additional profits that's gonna be made from this book. This book is gonna generate, if it sells the same amount as a tarot card, this book will probably generate an additional 50K in profit. So then if we bump everything together, now we have 60K. So is the 60K gonna go to the next project? And I don't know, let's say the next project is a bunch of shirts. I'm just throwing it out there, right? Like really, really cool shirts. So is the 60K gonna get used for the production? Basically, what I am really confused about is where this money is actually going. Like the money that is put forth to the future project. I understand that if it is being used for this reason and this reason only, which is why you can't pay other artists, then for the next project, you would have enough money to pay artists, right? Hypothetically, if you didn't have enough money to pay people for the tarot card project because they needed to go to the next project, then you should have enough in that 50K to pay artists on top of the potential profits this next project will make, because it seems like it also has a lot of traction. That's what I am very confused about. If somebody could enlighten me on this, that'd be great, because I'm not quite understanding that. Anyways, I digress. Momo was thinking about doing the Xenocopendia. Apparently, Gigi said that the people won't be paid message on the little doc was an accident, but when Momo looked it up again, it was still there. They don't have any screenshots though, so it's he said, she said, right? Artists are still not getting paid for the compendium. And some may say, well, Gigi was upfront with the tarot card project sales because she said how many units sold in the public chat. But she said she sold 1,000 units. Based off of that scale though, it could be anywhere from 34,000 USD to well over 100,000. I'd love to hear how this counts as a justification for transparency when the disparity in numbers is literally $90,000 between both actual numbers, because depending on how many special editions versus regular editions sold, only selling on Melon Books in Japan, which uses Japanese yen, the price was lower. In this paragraph, Momo is stating that it is not fair that the customers did not know artists weren't getting paid, and that contributors were upset that they weren't getting paid. And that people were getting paid different amounts, probably due to how many illustrations they added, with the most common number being $300. And for anybody wondering, well, Momo, that's 180 less than your estimate would come to. I didn't bother touching the tax situation because I'm not familiar with Gigi's personal situation to make a confident estimate. The point is, the amount I say is surprisingly close compared to what artists ended up getting paid, and I believe that most people would find this conclusion reasonable. So Momo concluded that it pulled in about 50K, and they state that there's still way too much left on the table without full and honest transparency. And if this transparency can't be provided to artists, much less customers who feel they're getting duped into supporting everybody when it really only goes to one, then these projects need to go back to the drawing board until a fair outcome for everybody can be agreed upon. There's so many options to overcome this issue as well that it makes it hard for me at this point to sympathize with the logistical difficulty when Gigi told me she even runs everything through a business due to the numbers she pulls on Patreon alone. Momo is again emphasizing, please directly support artists. If a project is not forthcoming with its financial situation, whether it be about profit sharing, going to charity, or just being enough to fund the project, then I would ask you to look deeper and ask the organizer questions about what's really going on so you can make an informed decision. So now we have a part 2 of this document, the truth about Gigi's character. In this second half, this is where Momo goes into their experience with Gigi and their feelings of their character. They state that this is going to be them exposing, talking about how Gigi has been bullying them. I read this, I will give you a TLDR, but I will slowly scroll through this so you can pause the video at any point. So basically TLDR, Gigi came into their stream when they were going through a tough time with their move. Gigi seemed really nice, so they were really down. Normally they don't open up to people that quickly, but Gigi was nice, so they were down. And then they saw some suspicious tweets on Gigi's account they didn't like, so they kind of wanted to distance themselves from her. And their final straw was the experience in the CGL Discord, or cosplay/gothic Lolita Discord, where Momo stated that they had some bad experiences in there with certain people, so just to use the Discord as a good resource, but be careful of the people. When Anime Expo acceptances went out in January, a lot of artists were upset they didn't get in, shading smaller artists, and that was the whole thing that restarted that Gigi also talked about in their doc about this other little Discord server that they were in, and then the crazy tirade Momo went on about or something like that. And then Momo gave a bunch of examples another example of why they had enough with Gigi, where they stated where somebody asked if they could buy something from a con in DMs, and allegedly Gigi put them on blast to their 40,000 followers. And then there was a whole scenario about an artist who was accused of using AI, and Gigi allegedly kind of camped and like aggressively asked them to post speed paints to prove that they weren't. So Momo unfollowed them, but Gigi remained in their Discord server and then provided examples about subtweets on a private account. But Momo basically says they just wanted to be left alone. They were having a hard time dealing with the anxiety and everything going on, and decided to confront Gigi about the messages on her private Twitter, and that they weren't going to be okay with them talking so poorly and openly, that somebody like Enel will go out of his way to warn them. And also, apparently, Momo did not know. Enel reached out to Gigi to tell them to stop talking about Momo. I don't know how Enel gets involved here either. So apparently, she makes a new private account, goes on there to shit talk, and then Enel wasn't following the other account. Momo thought Enel knew that Gigi was shit talking and not stopping her, only followed one of the accounts and not the other. The other one being where the rest of the shit talking happened, which is again very, very petty high school drama type stuff. And I think both people involved are over 30, which is you do you with your free time, I guess. Momo states, anyways, moving back to confronting her over these petty posts of her gossiping about me in front of people I considered to be friends or peers. The gossip happened on a private account, so I suppose potentially. So again, this is again readdressing some other stuff that we've already seen in previous docs as well. Here, direct contradiction of how Gigi talked to my face, then behind my back. Again, private account messages, more examples, more screenshots. And they're stating there's more examples where they felt Gigi wanted to drag them down and behind their back. And Momo says, also thank you to everybody who supported me to get me to a point where I could bridge the gap and make it to Australia to be with my partner. I may not draw Xenoblade ever again. In fact, I really just want to sell everything I own at this point because it's that ruined by the entire situation. But I am and always will be forever grateful for the opportunities you afforded me. Thank you for your time and stay well. And they provided more screenshots of the private, shit talking, quote unquote, or like subtweets on the private account from Gigi. More examples, and all their private accounts. I will say, after reading all of this, Momo basically states that there's like a harassment campaign made from Gigi, right? Necessarily agree. Everybody is going to interpret it their own way. I'm a third party person here. I'm not directly firsthand experiencing this stuff happening, right? This doesn't seem like a harassment campaign. It seems like one person on their private account talking smack. Momo wasn't even mentioned by name in any of the scenarios. It was all subtweets. Their name, their Twitter handle wasn't even mentioned. Is it considered petty and childish to go on an alt account and shit talk people? Yes, it is petty and childish, but I don't think that's a campaign or spreading gossip or malicious things behind their back necessarily, because that is blowing this way larger than it actually is. We currently, of all of the evidence of shit talking, there's 4 screenshots that I have seen that is provided at the bottom of the doc. And then a 5th one from somebody else, right? As like an additional vouch. It really just seems like in this scenario, I do think that it's gray on both sides. You know what I mean? Should Gigi have gone on a private account and spewed all that stuff? Probably not, right? I do understand you want to vent, but like, do you have friends that you can vent to in call? So you're not like typing everything up on a private account that people can access. It's a private account and you may feel like it's private. I'm here to tell you, nothing is private on the internet. Private accounts will still have people sneak in and post all the screenshots, okay? It's not private. Don't type things out on the internet that you will then be upset if it were to spread somewhere, because it's gonna happen at some point. That's just how it works. And then on the side of Momo, I do think the 4-month bullying and harassment campaign is a bit exaggerated from my point of view as a third-party outsider, right? Is it annoying to have somebody just like subtweeting you all the time? Yeah, but I don't think this is like a massive bullying harassment campaign that is being spearheaded by Gigi. That would be true if Gigi was on their main account being like, yeah, here's this Momo person and screw them and all of you guys should unfollow Momo. That would then be starting a smear harassment campaign and leveraging her 40,000 followers against you. But she's doing this on an alt account and not even mentioning your name really minimizes, I feel like, severity of it. Again, this is very just petty stuff. It's like 2 separate scenarios. There's the whole like petty, whatever, spreading gossip behind my back drama. And then there's the tarot card stuff. But going into the final comments left under Momo's tweet, we have Ipus, if I'm reading that correctly, stating, Gigi, who owns this project, organized, advertised, dealt with the manufacturing, quality control, logistics, and distributions. Are you saying Gigi deserves the equivalent of 11 to 12 USD per hour rate at a 9 to 5 job? That was in the doc. I also don't think it's like a 9 to 5 to manage making a tarot card deck. Is it time consuming? Yes. Is it 9 to 5? Like 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week for 8 months straight? It was assumed by the doc. I don't think so. Again, I'm saying this, I haven't run a project on that scale, but I used to have like a business where I made boba keychain stickers, stuff like that. Like I have had thousands of products on inventory and it is time consuming. but it's not 40 hours a week, like 52 weeks a year type time consuming in terms of managing it because Gigi didn't make the art, because the artwork was made by other people. If you're also making the art yourself too, then that does trend into like, more time territory. So Ipos mentioned that they calculated it slightly wrong because they forgot 9 to 5 people still don't work weekends, even if Gigi totally does. But that rate would still come out to 34,000 a year. Where's the year number coming from? Or am I missing something here? Because the whole thing was, it was for 8 months. So we divided by 8 months, right? Wait, I don't know where this number is coming from. That's $4,000 over a month because the project ran for 8 months. I don't know, maybe there's some place that they're grabbing this number that I missed. Hiro said, not to mention all the liability if the project didn't do well. There's so much more than XYZ numbers. Although I also would say that there's not as much liability if the project did well as people may think. And the reason being, there's something called pre-orders. And what pre-orders is that you put the item up for listing and people pay for the item before it's actually made. So they're going to receive it months down the line. So if you are somebody that wants to start a business and make something that might be more of a high ticket item in terms of pricing, then you can open up pre-orders so you don't have to put that much money down on yourself, right? To order a sample, it'll probably cost you $100 to $200. Obviously, that is a lot of money to some people, right? But if you do manage to get that $100 or $200, you can then open up pre-orders for said item, and then people will pay you for the pre-order. So the 1,000 people who want to buy it will pay you the $65 or $98, depending on what tier they're buying. You will get the $50,000 or more from what they're paying, right? So in this case, there was $100,000 in sales. You would then receive the $100,000, and then you can then safely go and purchase all the items and put them into production without taking that much strain off your back. The only liability you put down was $100 and $200. So there is a way to do it without putting tens of thousands of dollars on the line as liability, if that makes sense. So I do want to add that additional context that the choice of making it risky was actually taken on by Gigi intentionally. Gigi did mention in their document that they put all the production costs up front because they wanted the stuff to come out faster, right? That is a big risk to take. It will make your customers happy, but it's definitely big risk, big reward type thing. There is a way to do it with less risk. So Super Dude added, am I missing something? Your goal feels like you want to rewrite the terms of a project you didn't run and one you're not even part of. Are you trying to unionize artists against one person? I do think it's untrue though, because Momo was part of the Tarot Tech, just not part of the art book. If you don't agree with the terms, don't sign up. Then go start your own project with profit sharing terms. Also stop using profit when you mean revenue. Yeah, so they did say total profit, which is not true. I remember when I was reading it, corrected it to revenue. Profit is money that goes into your pocket. Lily adds extra context. 1 out of 4. First of all, I'm sorry for what you've been going through the past few months. I like to point out that the way you're talking about fan projects is a bit deceptive. The majority of fan projects are not compensated financially, especially if their goal is charity. Some fan projects offer nothing as compensation but are free digital downloads. Most of them offer the highest bundle if they break even, and some can only offer digital bundle. People signing up for these projects are meant to read through the guidelines and comply if they contribute to said project. The hosts are entitled to deliver the compensation you initially signed up for. If you disagree on the offered compensation or how the finances are handled, then it's best for you and anyone to move on and not interact with said project or future projects organized by the same persons. So then Drake adds, the project organized by Gigi did really well, much better than expected, I guess. So you took it upon yourself to stand up for artists involved and demand a bigger cut, even though everyone involved agreed on very transparent terms of compensation beforehand. Klume adds, and I think their perspective is very helpful, I've been thinking about the situation for a while and took a few steps back to look on it. As one of the many artists that worked on the compendium, to me personally, the goal should not be to get everybody paid. Transparency on the finances are highly encouraged. What is the profit? Where does it go? All the calculations are just done with the information available, and so also the speculation. So here's the thing. I think at the end of the day, fan projects are fan projects, right? There's things like Zines, etc., where artists will contribute to it, and then somebody will spearhead this project and lead the production and the creation of it and all that stuff. And you're lucky to break even, to be honest. Again, it's all great for the community, etc. I do think personally, don't know how many people like involved in this commenting, etc., like make merch or something like that. I personally do think, as somebody who has produced merch and made things in the past, if you do have the means to compensate your artists, it should be done, because you would not be able to make such profit without the artists. You know what I mean? I feel like that's like the in good faith, morally correct thing to do. Is Gigi obligated to pay? No, because they agree. Everybody who participated read the compensation, and by participating, you're agreeing, okay, this is what I'm accepting as my compensation. But I would personally think, if I participated in this and then found out that the person who spearheaded it made like lowball estimating 40K in profit and I didn't see a single cent, I might feel some type of way, But it is what it is at the end of the day. I don't think by any means Kama did this maliciously. Kama, Gigi, I'm using the term interchangeably. I have an easier time saying Gigi than Kama, which is why I resorted to saying that their name instead. But I don't think Gigi's malicious whatsoever. I don't think Gigi started the tarot card project being like, how can I scam people out of money? Like, I do not think it's like that at all. I definitely think this is something where Gigi's really busy and things kind of ran out of control, and, you know, they ended up with a bunch of profit and they were like, oh, wow, cool. And then, you know, let's use this for another project. And it is what it is. You know, I definitely think Gigi was very good intentioned with like how they were going about this. I would hope that in the future, maybe some sort of compensation method or system could be implemented for the artist. Maybe like, hey, you know, if I'll be very transparent and forthcoming with the finances, if we hit a certain amount in terms of profit, then anything beyond this will get cut for the art or some way, you know what I mean? Like if there's any profit, I will take 20% because I organized it. I don't know, out of the profits, 60% will go to the artist and the extra 20% will go towards future projects. You know, some way to add some sort of transparency in the future to make people more comfortable, I think could be good, right? Because financial transparency is great. I do think at the end of the day, all of the whole other stuff that was happening on the side is really, really petty and really high school drama. And hopefully both of them can just put it past themselves. Like, again, it's a whole scenario of one person shouldn't have been tweeting that much stuff on their private account, probably, right? It does come off very petty, but then the other person also is taking all of that to heart. And of course, it does suck to hear it, but it is what it is. People talk smack about people all the time, right? Just ignore it, move on. It is what it is. So but to like keep bringing it up and being like, there's a hate campaign against me. So that's just really petty type of stuff. Hopefully both parties involved can mature and move past this. And hopefully, you know, more cool Xenoblade projects can come out. The art book seems really cool. So hopefully artists will get compensated for that as well. And yeah, I do wish the best to both of these artists. And again, please don't say hate to anybody. This is just a scenario where it's very gray on both sides and hopefully both parties can just move on.